Our Queen of Support Xilonen is basically back. I know many of you are loving it. Hopefully if you already decide to pull for Xilonen, you have been able to succeed. However, yes, many of the time Xilonen is good, but there has been many questions that I've seen regarding Xilonen and our future to be released character Escoffier. Even though Escoffier information isn't official yet, but it is still posed a consideration for many of you guys in terms of we've already kind of know and have a picture of what her potential kit will be. So deciding whether or not to save for Escoffier or pull for Xilonen right now has been on many of you guys' mind for a bit, which is why we're going to be discussing that in this video. Xilonen is back and I know that many of you are excited for her. So if you're planning to swipe for pulling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 23% on all of your top-ups with over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point. And by the way, this also applies to PS5 and Xbox user who can place orders through Loot Bar. You can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. Here you can see my order receipts of all of my top-ups that I have done. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. So before we have a bit of comparison between Xilonen and Escoffier, here's a quick overview of what these two characters are basically capable of. I won't be going too in depth because most of us already know about this, but Xilonen, the best thing that she's able to do and capable of is having access to 36% resistance shred to many of the elements, which is really nice considering most of the meta teams right now use the element that Xilonen is able to shred. Other than that, she has the ability to fully make use of the city buff, which is definitely something that makes her stand out over other supportive character. More importantly as well, you can get healing from her to your active character. This is really nice because many of the supportive characters out there do not have access to proper healing, making them sometimes quite hard to be used in a team. And then lastly, this is more quality of life towards Xilonen, but basically she's a very easy character to use. You don't really need to think too much whenever you use your Xilonen compared to characters such as Kazuha, because the only thing you need to do is cast her E skill and her elemental burst and you are very good to go. So that's the overall things that Xilonen provide to your team, and overall it is very good. Now as for Escoffier, I'm pretty sure you guys know a lot as well. She mainly works in Hydro and Cryo team, so the majority of the time you're going to be seeing her within a freeze team, and whenever you are in a freeze team only, she has the ability to have a 55% resistance shred toward Hydro and Cryo. Now the good thing about her is that she is technically not locked in a freeze team only, so on paper you can still use her on other team, just with a trade-off of that you're going to be having less resistance shred toward both Hydro and Cryo element. But the main point of Escoffier, many of the time we're going to be looking into a freeze team for the majority, because if you pull for her, you're most likely going to be just using her in a freeze team anyway. Other than that, she has access to off-field damage, and this off-field damage actually has the ability to do pretty good damage. Now since she's going to be doing off-field damage anyway, she's going to be having access to cryo application, which is really nice. But what's more important about her is that she's also has access to healing. With her elemental burst, she's going to be healing your whole entire team. Not to mention the scaling that we're seeing with Escoffier elemental burst right now is pretty high, so she doesn't just have access to the ability of resistance shred, but you're going to be seeing her as a powerhouse on your team as well, with the ability to do off-field damage, and you can consider her as a support character that can do off-field damage, and that is something that I really like about a character. Other than that, you can also have access to a Noblesse Oblige artifact set. Most likely you're going to be giving her this artifact set because on a freeze team, many of the time I don't think there are any other character that will be holding this set, so Escoffier is a perfect candidate for this, though it does trade off her personal damage, which you may be able to consider in terms of the Marechaussee set for more of her personal damage. But if you're looking into the team of a team-wide buff that has access to attack scaling, the Noblesse Oblige set is still really good. And so that's basically the overview of Escoffier at this point. Obviously it's not official yet, and we'll still have to wait for the official live stream for the information to be confirmed. But from the look of it, as we've mentioned before, Escoffier Escoffier shines the most whenever it comes to freeze team. However, as we also know, Xilonen is a character that can technically work in a freeze team also. So for example, if you were to be using a team such as Ayaka, Furina, and Shenhe, the last slot generally can be either Escoffier or Xilonen. They will fit perfectly into that slot and will be able to provide really nice buffing to your DPS or other sub DPS damage. Now with that in mind, the main thing about this is to decide whether or not you should stick with Xilonen, save your Primogems, or invest into an Escoffier. And so from the information that we've got, if you are somebody who really like cryo teams, freeze teams, cryo characters, and you're going to be focusing a lot on that, Escoffier kit will generally be better than Xilonen. Because one thing, her resistance shred is technically higher than Xilonen. Other than that, she has access to whole team healing. So if you're using in a freeze team, most of the time you're going to be having a Furina, and so having whole team healing would definitely allow your Furina to do a lot more sub DPS damage because your team HP is going to be above the 50% mark most of the time. Not to mention, we don't know how future cryo characters are going to be used in the team, right? We don't know whether or not they're going to be strictly used into a freeze team, or will they actually benefit a lot from a freeze team. So that is technically uncertain for the time being, which makes it generally for the smarter investment. Obviously, Xilonen is going to be better right now. I know that many of you already have Xilonen, so if you don't really want to invest more into your Xilonen, then yes, go ahead and save up Primogems, wait for future reruns like Mavuika or Sitlali, or wait for future characters, you know, Skirk maybe potentially coming, but we'll talk a little bit more about Skirk in a little bit. As for Xilonen specifically, she's going to be a character that has her value up for a very long time and potentially till the rest of the game. So your value of having Xilonen already, right, especially when she can be used in multitude of other teams, not just in freeze team at this point in time, is an absolute great asset for Xilonen as a character. But if we're looking into freeze team solely, then considering if it's both a C0 Escoffier and a C0 Xilonen, then Escoffier will still be able to buff your freeze team decently better than Xilonen. That being said, is if you only want to have your Xilonen stay at a C0 level. If you guys are somebody who love to invest more into your Xilonen at this point, maybe even considering up to a C2 Xilonen with basically having access to a 45% HP increase for Hydro character as well as a 60% crit damage increase for your Cryo character, definitely a C2 Xilonen investment will outshine you trying to get a C0 Escoffier. Now technically speaking, C2 is still more expensive than a C0, but since many of you already have a Xilonen and may consider already trying to invest more into your Xilonen, that is technically a very nice route to go down to. So that's the thing about Xilonen. However, there are cases when Escoffier will be basically a must-have, and that's when we have access to a cryo character that can only work in a freeze team, which is why it's been rumored to be Skirk as a character. I've been hearing some information that potentially, it's not confirmed as usual, but potentially Skirk is going to be a character that only work in a freeze team, which is why Escoffier is being released right now, which is, you know, next patch, and then the patch after, most likely Skirk is going to be there. And so if Skirk were to be a character that only works in the freeze team, then yeah, as I've mentioned before, Xilonen can't be on a team that can't use her. That makes it to be Escoffier is technically a must-have character on a Skirk team if you want a meta team for your Skirk. And you know, if you want your Skirk to do well, right, Escoffier does every single thing for a free team of shredding, having buff for Noblesse Oblige, as well as healing for your whole entire team, off-field damage as well. Absolutely brilliant for a freeze team specific run. Now obviously it is still hard for us to decide because we don't have much of information on Skirk. Therefore, the only thing, if I were in your shoes at this point in time, is if you're somebody who haven't got Xilonen, then technically speaking, it would be wise to actually pull for her at this point. It's already her first rerun. We don't know when she's going to be back just yet. Even if for Escoffier, that is just going to be her very first banner, and most likely she's going to be back within at most 3 to 4 patches down the line. However, if you already got a Xilonen, it's still going to be better for you to save your Primogems currently, wait for Escoffier when she's released so that we have all the testings and more information about, you know, future potential of Skirk coming down the line. line to make more of a decisive pooling decision. However, if you're somebody who wants to get a C2 Xilonen, but you fear that if you do get a C2 Xilonen, you don't have enough Primogems to actually go for Escoffier, with Skirk being potentially only for a freeze team, then generally speaking, even though C2 Xilonen is very good, I don't think it's worth it for you if you're still even considering usage of your Primogems to actually go for more of the constellation, because C1 is already can be tough if you do lose a 50-50. If you do happen to lose a 2 50-50 to get a C2 Xilonen, that's gonna hurt your bank quite a bit and may make you skip out more future characters than just potentially Escoffier when she comes right after Xilonen, because C0 Xilonen is already complete as it is a character, very good already. Rather than that, it's better for you to save your Primogems for future characters, and we'll wait for Escoffier as well as more Skirk information whenever the patch 5.6 actually comes. So those, I would say, are my thought process toward the Escoffier and Xilonen question wise. If you do have any other questions, leave it down in the comment section and I or some other lovely Genshin player will help you there. I hope that the video have been helpful to you. Again guys, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to not miss out on my future Genshin videos. With that, I wish you a super day and I'll catch you on my next video.